Hello and welcome back to Good Game Nation, where we bring you all things TCG. My name is Preston, and I'm here with Sam. Say hello.
Hello, it's late at night and we're a little sleepy, but I am very excited to go over these large tournaments that happened this weekend. I'm bummed we couldn't be there, but I'm happy we get to talk about it.
Yeah, I had to take a breath in that one. That was rough. Let's stretch out those vocal cords and let's talk about treasure cups. We had four treasure cups this weekend, which is insane. I think it's the most that we'll get during this month at one time. We had Long Beach, California, United States. We had Niagara, Canada.
Hmm?
We had, I'm not going to be able to say Birmingham.
That's pretty
I'm going
good.
to say, I think you take out the H when you say Brigham. It's whatever. UK and Sydney, Australia. Imagine the European one is the one I can't say. Wild. But we had great turnouts from what I can tell. The Long Beach one, we got the most information for because it's the closest local that we could pay attention to.
Hmm.
And what we're bringing to you today is the first place deck list for all four tournaments. So, who won and what did they play? I think we should start with our local, with Long Beach.
I think so. It's definitely the more interesting one. If we look at the East, Luffy was a fringe pick at best. He was overshadowed by his red partner Zoro. But here he is. Here he is. He won Long Beach. He beat down Law, which is really exciting. And this is one of the more interesting versions. I think the odd curve here on Luffy is probably one of the best. So it's nice to see it here and taking the tournament.
You're talking about like a Zoro, Luffy, Beckham, Shanks line?
I'd prefer Nico Robin, but you could definitely run that too if you see fit. But Nico into Luffy into Ben into Shanks is so powerful. I don't think there's an odd curve that can really contest. The only reason it's not favored too much is because it doesn't have any destruction. It's just offense and offense and offense, and Kaido or Blue would offer a little more utility. But the muscle here is undeniable.
Yeah, and Luffy, Shanks, and Zoro all having rush means that you're hitting your opponent immediately. You don't have to wait. They don't have to time to prepare. They just have to react and deal with these strong characters.
Yeah.
Um, Interesting for this deck for me, besides events, we'll get to events. Let's stick to characters. One of the mover namis from the starter deck is interesting to me. Um, I don't know why you would want to put that on board most of the time, especially when your leader's going to do it for free. So you don't have to pay the one cost. You're not taking up a place in your board. So I'm not. It's an interesting tech, extra little like, I don't know. Let's throw in the one like extra card just in case I need to move a little bit faster. So I think that's interesting. Um, the other card that stood out to us is Gordon. We actually went back to the video. We'll link where we got the list. Most of them are YouTube videos, so go give these people some views. Um, I went back and had to listen to what he had to talk about on Gordon, and it was very brief. He said, I brick a lot. So there's two problems there. And one of them is playing Gordon, in my opinion, and the other is playing a deck that bricks a lot. He obviously won. He's the best player in Long
Yeah.
Beach right now in this
Yep.
area, wherever he came from. He's the Treasure Cup champion of the West Coast, so not a bad pilot. Like
No.
this is an incredible player. I'm just talking trash because I think it's funny that he's playing a card to avoid bricks instead of taking out cards that he considers bricks. Um, Obviously, he's playing event cards that he feels comfortable with, but it's just a funny comment to hear someone say, like, oh, I have a lot of bad hands, so I play this to refresh my hand. Take the cards out that you consider bad hands, and I don't know. It's interesting.
No, and the reason I wouldn't have recommended Luffy or Zoro, to be honest, for this tournament is they are inconsistent. They don't offer a lot of draw. You can brick a lot. So those are reasons I avoid it. To avoid that, I normally would recommend running less cards without counter power. That's typically how this deck was being built towards the end of the East. Zoro was seeing less copies. The starter Luffy was seeing less copies. We were seeing more Yasops. We were seeing more Vanillas pop up just because it offered a little more consistency, a little more power. Like you said, there's a lot of event cards here, specifically Red Hawk. We talked a little bit off camera about it. The reason it wasn't being played in the East is because it's an incredibly telegraphed play for Red. There's no other 2-drop event cards that are being played other than Red Hawk. So if they see 2 open, they're able to attach a Dawn, boost their guys up above 4K, then attack, making Red Hawk very, very, very redundant. So that is one thing that will probably change as the meta grows. I don't expect to see much Red Hawk as the meta develops. And then the lack of 2Ks, I think, are probably something that I would revisit as well. There's only, is this 9 here?
I'm seeing 9, yeah.
Probably want to be around 12, somewhere between 12 and 16. Brooke definitely needs to be at 4. That's just my
there's Otama's.
Otama. Thank you. This is good then. That's probably the right count. Gordon, I would agree with, is probably not the play. I'd probably recommend tweaking some of the non-counter power cards. But the better pilot is going to win the earlier tournaments 100% of the time. So this guy was the better player that day. Best of ones, Red is a great deck for. So
yeah, they at least got best of 3, or is it best of 3 in top? So they really had to play better games in their top 16, 8 and on. But yeah, he's just a really good player, and that's he probably could have brought whatever he wanted to and done well.
That's my honest feeling about that too.
Yeah, and that's probably true about all of these decks. I mean, we are going to cover a Kid, which is just a sacky deck that just wins games, and that's why I like playing it. But yeah, it's interesting. I would assume if this player keeps playing Red, he'll drop some event cards and add some 2Ks. The round table is a nice plus. It's a really good tech. The Jambé is interesting for me, considering I don't know what you use it on, but I also am not playing Red right now. I am playing Kid, so I don't know what I would be Jambeing.
Everything.
Yeah, anything.
Whatever
Yeah.
you need. But it was a nice transition to Kid, I think, because that is definitely the next deck we're going to cover. Kid all the way down from the cold Canada. And I'm going to be honest, this is a list I've seen, 10 times. I think what we could take away, though, is that Kid is just a beast.
Kid's a good deck. If you want to have fun and win games, play Kid. Once you figure out your flow, I think Kid is a great deck to play. Having 2 attacks out of your leader is fantastic. Having cards in your hand that you feel comfortable getting rid of with Kid for his second attack is important, and I believe there's tons of them that are good options to do that with. You don't always need 2 8-drop Kids. That's a good card to dump, especially because it doesn't have counter. I've seen people dump Basil Hawkins. This deck only runs 2, so maybe you don't, but I've seen people dump Basil Hawkins because you get a second attack right now instead of waiting for your Basil to get online. But yeah, like you said, this is a very standard list. It's running Momos and Bonnies. It's running enough of everything.
Yeah.
I don't know much to say about it other than this deck's just a good deck and will probably be annoying through the rest of set 1 and probably into early set 2 also.
Yeah, I don't have the graphic here. We got the graphic for Long Beach. We know what the large majority of it was, and I think over 50% was Kid, or not that much. It was 150 decks out of, I don't remember how many people
Probably
entered
close.
it.
Yeah.
It's close to the half, so this was majority of the tournament, and the reason for it is it's incredibly consistent. We have 2 searchers. Our core is very sound. We have lots of 2Ks here. We have a lot of very disturbing effects, disturbing as disruptive. We have draw through Raizo. We have draw through obviously Bonnie and Momo. There's so many cards you could pull out, and the end game is excellent. Kid Leader is absolutely your finisher. That's all you need for your finisher, and your 7 8 drops are your defense. Very, very good deck. It's built well. Nothing really to really say. Killer's a really interesting card. The starter deck one. That's probably the only comment I have.
Yeah, it's a nice tech. They probably felt like they needed a little bit more KO power.
Especially if you're
That's
predicting a lot of Zoro. This is a nice like little tech for that.
absolutely.
Yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep. Moving on.
To one of the laws. Do you remember which law this was? This
I'm ninety
was
percent sure this is UK law.
okay, this is the UK law.
It
It's the
is.
one
It's
I
the
think
UK.
yeah, it's the one we talked about the most
Abs-
before getting on because it feels so different and I think it feels and looks less consistent, and yet they still pulled off a very long tournament win. So it just looks off to me.
Oh man. Law is a tough leader to play. I think besides Dofi, I think those two actually are the most difficult to play. And I think Law is maybe not necessarily in the actions you take. I think those actions can be difficult. I think it's through the deck building itself. Because you need to be able to be consistent and you need to be able to be fast because we are not only down a life, we need a lot for our leader to get going. So a lot of things to look at. A lot of one-offs, and that makes me feel so uncomfortable seeing that because I want this deck to be built to be incredibly efficient and consistent, and seeing all these one-offs just makes me so nervous.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of alluding to is it just feels weird seeing that when coming to like a deck building perspective. Um, Obviously the cards they chose to be one-offs aren't bad cards. X Drake is KOing stuff. Law is restanding half of your deck basically. Um, and Basil is a good card. It's just interesting that if you like, I feel like Nico should be at 4, and if you're playing Law, maybe more Luffy's because I feel like the starter deck Luffy's a better card. Restanding a card to attack again off of a shambles even is kind of just awkward to me, but you only need one to pull off in game. So like if you just uh unblockable Luffy into leader and they took it and you're like, I haven't shambles, here's a law, I'm attacking again and that's it. Like if they don't defend the first one on unblockable, then I can see that play. It's just weird. You have to have it in hand at that point. And when you're only running one copy, way harder to get it into hand.
Right. And these aren't cards that we haven't seen in Law before. We've definitely seen the Drake at high counts. We've seen the obviously the starter deck Law at 4, at 3. It's definitely seen its variety over the couple months the game's been out. Basil makes a lot of sense. We're seeing a lot of Zora right now. Like these cards, in theory, obviously make a lot of sense, and we can make sense of that. But just when it comes to like things like opening hands and all these options, I'd just rather see the cards that make the deck more effective and efficient. And Nico Robin absolutely should be at 4. I think he even mentioned that in his video that was the MVP. So please run Nico Robin at 4. That's my like one request. And we're starting to get into the Momo territory. Momo was really popular towards the end of set 1 for the East. They were playing that on top of Bonnie and on top of Nami. Because we have the Wano here. It's here. We have the Aizo, we have the Cat, we have the Otama. 16 is usually the number they float around. That's good, pretty good for a search range. So maybe we'll see that float around. And I also was expecting Shanks when I was watching this video. It's a moderately more aggressive version of this deck. Law and Basil scream a little more aggressive, and you said you like Luffy at 4. I prefer Luffy at 2. I actually like the Zoro at 2 as well. When I saw it at 4 and then I saw the Drake, I'm like, oh yeah, we're absolutely seeing Shanks at the end of this. And it wasn't there. That kind of shocked me. It seemed like there was a good call for this deck just to have that uh, ending little punch. I don't know. Maybe that's my expectations.
Yeah, because even if you get them on board by hard casting, like you have other things that you're doing, and you won't be upset to have a 10K full boss monster on the board to boss around the rest of the your opponent's side. Even if you don't get to do a crazy shambles that turn, I think just having Shinx on board, putting on pressure in something that's harder to kill and super easy to defend at that point. That's something that I'm learning is you put your big drop on board because they're easier to defend and they're most likely going to go after that. And it's a lot easier to defend than your 5K leader, especially if they're they like especially with like kid where you have to attack into it. And that's probably what the last law did.
Ooh, nice transition. And it only took you 3 sets to figure it out. Let's go. That's so funny. And you know, I in the cool transition for Law, and especially in the later sets, end of set 2, we are seeing these large drops enter the deck more just to compete with other decks that are running it, and that seems to be the best matchup. We're seeing Whitebeard being played. We're seeing still these 8-drop kids being played. And here, this looks like a more refined end of East set 1 Law deck. This looks pretty compact. The radical beams, that screams. We've done a lot of research on it. Zoro and Luffy low counts. Nico at 4. All of our combo cards are at high counts. Izo, Brook. This feels real good. I like this list.
Yeah, it looks like a list that you would want to play just based off of consistency. Um, it's a list that I would brick on all the time. I just don't have the capacity to play Law for some reason,
How do
but
you
that's
brook?
okay.
It's so hard to brick with this guy. You read so
It's
many one
just
drops.
it just doesn't like I think I try to overextend too fast. So I think playing correctly, and that's what we always say when it comes to Law, you have to know the deck well and know your plays and be a good pilot. Because I think if you're a bad pilot playing Law, you just get ran over. Um, Especially because you're starting at 1 life less than everybody. If you're not taking advantage of all of the things at good moments, you'll just lose a little bit faster. Um, but yeah, I think this is very similar to the kid list, and it's consistent, and it's what we expect to see from this list. Um, it kind of makes me want to go back to our Meta Monday where we talked about Law and Kid and see what we put up as like beware of these decks.
We're
So
so
I'm
close. We're so
curious how
close.
close they are to the winning decks. Um, and that's me just kind of tooting my own horn that we predicted 2 of the 3 winners.
So close. I think the
Um,
only difference is we're really in favor of Otama, because like I said, if we look at this list again, we're right there. We have the 4 Otamas, we have the 4 Vipers and 3 Izos. I don't think we were playing the Killers. I think we were playing and 3 Otamas, and it was like 3 Momos. I think we're so close. And like I said, it's not that it's just what we've been learning from the East, and we're just bringing it over here. And
mhm.
yeah, it's just it's nice to see that we're just kind of following at the end of their set 1 and 2 it.
Mhm.
And Law, on top of that, you have to be really, really proficient in your matchups. Yes, that's important for all the decks, but for this one specifically, I think you need to be more in tune, and I think that's why this deck is seeing more success in set 2. And honestly, in my gut feeling, we'll probably see more success in set 3.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's a good leader playing 2 of the best colors in the game right now. I just scrolled through all 4 decks. The 3 green decks are all playing the starter deck Killer, which is a card that we've overlooked for a while now. And all 3 of these green decks are playing it.
Mm-hmm.
So something to keep on our radar that they're coming for our 3 and less
It's a
for full knockouts, not just taps and they're going for blood with these green decks.
it's definitely overkill. Like I don't think it's necessary with Nico Robin as well. They do very similar things. And with your leader tapping one, Law is very easily to clear these things. This is very good for Zoro. Like I think Killer, when I see these killers, this is excellent for Zoro. And with Zoro, absolutely going to trend down. There's no way it's going to trend up. It didn't do well at all in any of these treasure cups. It's either going to have to reinnovate, which is going to be very difficult, or drop. And with that dropping, I expect to see the killer drop as well. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah, the Zoro definitely had less tops in Long Beach than we expected. It did have a ton of people playing it. I think it was the third most played deck in Long Beach. So people are playing it just to less success because I do believe Law and Kid are better at this point for what is available in set 1. Set 2, obviously Zoro gets a huge boost off of Curly Dadan.
Whitebeard.
And then Whitebeard, which just makes every red deck better. It also can make your laws better. So
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to find the top 16, but I'm not finding it. That's okay.
That's okay.
But yeah, 4 really interesting decks, 4 really exciting tournaments. If we can find VODs on YouTube, I'll try to get them up in the description. But they're a little bit hard to find. Most of them were streamed on Twitch, so you might be able to do a Treasure Cup search on Twitch and get that also.
Tough.
But that's all we have time for today. This was a pretty long one. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a really interesting video to look at each of these decks. If you enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button. We do this all the time. We do Meta Mondays every Monday.
It's Wednesday.
This one's on a Wednesday.
We were waiting.
That happens.
We were waiting for more lists. We wanted to have more information, but we couldn't wait too long. We would love to have out all the top 16s and stuff for you guys, but when we have it, we'll post it either on Twitter or it'll be in the descriptions in a little bit. But let us know in the comments, guys, what you thinking. What's the next play for the next Treasure Cup? What are you guys thinking about? Let us know.
I think East Coast Florida is happening this coming up weekend, so we'll have more deck lists coming soon, I hope. And we'll try to cover all the Treasure Cups when we can find the list. Thank you all for being here. We're just rambling at this point, so head on out. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Peace. Dude, LeBron broke the record.
Did he?
He did, yeah.
Was it even close? Like, just
I
blew it
mean,
out?
it was just gonna. No, it's like 2 points.
Oh, okay.
But he's gonna play. He's gonna play one more year, so it's gonna get nasty.